everyone, it's 5:30 p.m. Today is June the 13th, 2024. This is the work session of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. First item on the work session this evening is the discussion and for consideration on a regular meeting tonight, the request by Kip Hampton, LLLP, for a request for extension for commencement of construction on the dealership and in relationship to the land that was purchased from Trinidad Urban Renewal in 2021. With us here this evening, we have Tim Lamb, who is General Counsel for Kip Hampton LLP, and he has provided information. When I sent it to you, May the 15th, I sent everybody a copy of Tim's email, which was in response to information requested in the discussions in the past. With that, and he gave quite a bit of detail regarding the plans going forward, and he can elaborate on that tonight as well. The other thing that he did provide to everyone, and I provided at your seating, and you're going to note that it's a balance sheet for Kip Hampton as of year end 12/31. This is the first time you'll be looking at it. I did put it out at your seating places. This is confidential and proprietary information. But once we reviewed it this evening, we will give it back to Mr. Lamb. It will be a one-time view. We'll give it back to him once we conclude discussions. So, Tim, I will hand it over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. As you know, last couple times I've been here, I've gone over our request to extend this construction period for 3 years. I presented to you previously what our original estimates were when we actually applied for this, and at the time of purchasing this piece of land was about $3 to $4 million, which has grown to about $11 to $12 million, and it's just not feasible at this time. So what I did present is, one of the confidential things is just a balance sheet for Kip Hampton. It shows you the assets, our asset value, total asset worth is like $129 million. We have the ability to build. We have the ability, even though Jay has passed, we're moving forward. I spent many years with Jay setting up a succession plan, and that plan is now in effect. So our key executive team basically is, we're all trustees now of a trust for all of the business assets of this organization, of Billabong dealerships, Kip Hampton, and some of our other corporations. So the money, we have the ability. It's just right now too, and I want to tell you so that we're totally transparent, because of the delays with Ford and with Stellantis, which is Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, they keep coming back to us with certain things. So at some point, this proposal could change a little bit as to what we want to build. I hate to say it, but years ago, before we bought the Ford's franchise, Ford wanted to really close this point and just keep the Raton store. But because Jeff Cook, who was the owner then, brother was the regional manager of Ford for this region, he protected his brother. They've approached us recently with that same kind of overture. Now, we're not in line with that at this point, but if that's the case, the Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram would still be here. And Ford, one of their offers, so to speak, these aren't real offers yet, is that we might have a large Ford service facility. So there would still be jobs, there would still be people, and it would still help the community. It's just having our Raton store so close. It's always kind of been a thorn in their side. A lot of these manufacturers don't like rural stores now. They like the big shiny ones. And I hate to say it, and we all know what Jay thought. Jay believed in this town, and he wanted that here. So we're still fighting that fight, but I wanted to be transparent with you. It is still our intention, it has been, that we're going to build something there that benefits this community. It'll be automotive related. It hopefully will be exactly as we proposed. And right now that's still on the table. So we just need a little more time, so right now, where this came up is we went back to Ford to try to downsize this. And then they came back with, well, you know, would you guys consider closing the point? Would you, and pretty much right now, we're not there. Now, they could pull it from us, but I don't think they'll do that. You know, Jay was one of the most highly respected Ford dealers in the country. So, I think we have that bargaining position. So, I'm still asking you if we can extend this. We probably don't need that amount of time to 3 years, but I would like it just, who knows what this economy is gonna do with the election year and everything else. It gives us a little more time. I can tell you that our contractor has been submitting still to the city for approvals and things. They've got preliminary approval of plans, drawings, all of that, but nothing final has been submitted because we're still waiting to see. But we have been progressing as if we were gonna still get this done sooner than later. Any questions at all from any of you?
Commissioner Howard?
No, everything I've seen from the very beginning, from all of our relationships between TURA, Kip Hampton, the other kind of things, has just made me more solid in the affirmative of us helping this move forward in the direction that makes it most delivers what you need, delivers what Trinidad needs, and if that's time, well, I think that's something we have.
Thank you.
Mr. Lopez?
That's not me.
That was me, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Thank you for this. This has really helps me to protect the folks that trusted us to have these contracts in place for the city of Trinidad and stuff. And for transparency as well, I did have a conversation with Mr. Lamb recently. I think in the middle of May, we talked
Yes, we did.
about a slight issue here in the community for local contractors and stuff with another entity. So I believe as of Monday, that wasn't resolved yet, but I think it was today.
It was actually resolved last week.
Okay, so, we appreciate the contracting with local.
Actually, let me correct. I actually came down here on Tuesday
Take care of yourself.
and delivered a check that he wouldn't sign the certified for. So I brought another check.
All right, anyway, thank you for taking that phone call and entertaining that, you know, our local contractors are very important to us, small or large, and we look forward to having our local contractors work with you. You know, whether they're having an issue, which we were able to, you were able to resolve.
Yes.
I just hate to see a disdain and for your organizations that you're doing such good things in our community. And for the legacy of Mr. Chinino, just on a technical error of an accounting issue at your higher end for a small $14,000 issue. So thank you for getting that taken care of, and hopefully that doesn't, you know, those hiccups don't happen again. So we'd hate to see anything come across to the county or the city of an unqualified bidder for any future projects, because you guys are bidding on stuff for the county as well. So thank you for that and getting that accomplished. We'd like to see that move forward. This here is great. This is what I really needed to see for me to protect, like I said. And the other thing is, when the construction starts, like I've always been an advocate for local business, local jobs, local taxes. And that's what this project was gonna be.
Yes.
A little background, years ago, the county commissioners were opposed to a lot of these types of taking of land and raw land and utilizing, because then they wouldn't have the property taxes or, you know, renovations or condemning, but this now is different. We have a sales tax. And so a sales and use tax would have been implemented as well during the construction phase of this. So that would generate a lot of money for Los Alamos County, and we look forward to seeing that growth in our community. So thank you for your time, and thank you for taking my call and assisting with that local contract.
Anytime there is an issue, you know, because usually it's somebody's dropped the ball on one end or another. I will say occasionally, like in this one, we had two stubborn sides. And it took me in the middle to get it resolved.
Right. Thank you.
Commissioner Heck?
I relish the relationship we have with your organization. I've been here for a little over 3 years, and I've seen and heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm happy to keep it going. If we can help you with an extension, it's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I bring my car to fill full on all the time, and I always take care of it.
I just had mine there yesterday.
Yeah, you know.
Commissioner Baker?
I'm all for the extension. I'm okay with that, and thank you so much for this too. You know,
we're okay with that, and I'm glad that, the questions did arise and we were able to,
Actually, I'm gonna pass that in right now to the commission.
all feel
Chair.
relieved about everything, so it's just, you answered every question, you dotted the i's, crossed the t's, we're just pretty happy about that, so.
Well, we want to be transparent as much as we can be, so.
Okay, thank you.
Jay always said, we consider this a partnership,
Mhm.
so, and that's how we do things, so, you know, we want to be good partners in the city.
And you have,
And we rely on them for other things we're doing.
Yeah, Tim, we do thank you for being here. This is that information, and we already had it, and we protect it as
I have
confidential.
one question, did we want to ask him about the
Well, yeah, let's go ahead with this first.
Okay.
So, as it comes to me, I have both feet all the way up to my knees, I think, with that development agreement, so I think I know every page of it backward and forward, so I'm pretty well aware of it. So when you originally came to this, and there's been no time that I've ever had any qualms or any misgivings about it, I was, from the beginning. But it's one where the entire commission has to be confident and satisfied with the questions that were asked and the information you provided. So, it is on our regular agenda this evening for approval. We will go there and hopefully we'll conclude this now, we'll get it signed, and then that will be in your court and at the point where you need to do what you gotta do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Before you go, I'm gonna kick something forward, and if this is okay with the other members of TURA. Number 6 on the agenda this evening is the monthly update we do on the Hughes Lumber Building. And Commissioner Bagley is, he's got that charge. I think you've even volunteered for that, so it's a.
Yeah, thank you for volunteering.
So you got your thing full on it. So quite possibly, Tim, you might be able to give a current status of what's going on with the Hughes Lumber property?
I can. What we're waiting on is History Colorado still. They are slower than slow. Because we basically have applied, for possibility of historic tax credits. That building, and they won't let us start any work until they've given approval. So if we put, one of our things is we're gonna tuck point, we're gonna, repair the roof, we're gonna, new windows, things like that. If we spend $1 before they've given approval, they will not allow that credit to go towards that. So we've been waiting and waiting, and I just need to check with our architect who's been dealing with them to find out exactly where we are. Now, part of the delay is we have also been in discussions with them about the Holy Trinity School in Conway for the credits on that. And we've had some big arguments over whether that's 1 building, 2 buildings, or 3 buildings. So we kind of settled on 2. So that is delayed a little bit because they focused on that. And we had to go all the way up to their director to really get their attention. So I think right now there's maybe slow walking on the Hughes Lumber Building a little bit, but I will check on that. I'll get a hold of Paul tomorrow as our architect and see. Oh, he's right there. So what do you know about that?
I will have an answer on July 10th.
July 10th?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't even see you here.
This is one-stop shopping.
Yes, it is. It is, totally. So July 10th, that's what we're waiting on. And then once they give us that approval, we're gonna start the work on it.
I had reached out to Carl Gabrielson and just, he just said, there's just no news at this point, and I said I would report that, and I said, but that's been the last couple months, we've been doing that, but the History Colorado, I think is, even going back 2 months, even maybe longer than that, 3 months, has always been in the play with this to, so it's still there, and that's why I said, well, we're glad you're here to be able to clarify that.
Yes, and I'm glad Paul's here.
And Paul's here too.
I'm glad he's here, because he's been dealing with it more than I have.
Question for you, Mr. Lamb. History Colorado, is that part of the state of Colorado budget, annual budget controlled by the state, or is it a separate entity, do you know?
I think it's by the state. Because I think
Yes,
Dawn, the director, isn't she appointed by the governor?
appointed by the governor.
Yes,
Mhm.
she is,
Yes.
because that's who we had to go up to.
If you get stuck any further, reach out. Governor Polis and I have a good relationship.
Thank you very much.
Well, again, this is a project that, this is kind of another TURA, Kip Hampton kind of project, that specific building. Is there ever a time that you run into things where it would actually help TURA to kind of move forward and help TURA engage, whether it's a letter of support, whether it's just contacts that may be from this organization or from other urban renewal authorities in that area? Because TURA believes that's a great project. We sold it to somebody to have it done, and so it'd be nice if there's ever a time, I think, that if our board, and through that the city, can actually advocate on your behalf. I think that would be something we might be interested in doing.
Take you up on that. We're right now working on that OEDIT grant,
Mhm.
and we were gathering some letters of support. I don't know where we're at on that.
I know
Well, we certainly support it, we sold it.
We're approved.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
And so, but we're actually going back to the EPA right now, asking to see if they could find us some extra money, some additional things that they would like us to do that weren't in our part of our original, application.
Well, think of us as a partner in that area as well.
Thank you. We'll keep that in mind.
Commissioner Heck? No,
Anything else?
I appreciate you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Okay, item number 2 on the agenda this evening is Trinidad Opera House LLC. As you're all aware, the Trinidad Opera House was owned by the principal, remember, the principal of the LLC is Dana Crawford. And the request came to Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority originally at an amount of $100,000, 80 actually, and then another 20 was added on because we began at the northwest corner with stabilization, and then was going to be for some additional work on the facade to make the walkway safe and safe for pedestrians. And so you will recall that Paul Benedetti, the attorney that we utilize, did create a draft loan. Preliminary loan agreement. We created a draft which was sent to commissioners around May the 15th. I sent it, and for everybody's review of the process, I also sent it to Trinidad Opera House LLC. And so we'll get a little more detail on it tonight. Tonight we have Paul Glenn, who's an architect and loves Trinidad, and we're happy to see you here tonight, Paul. Paul will tell us, there were several questions that were asked in prior meetings and several concerns. So Paul has agreed to be here and provide details to those concerns to see where we maybe follow through on this. I'll let you go with your information, Paul, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to be here. So yes, it did evolve. It was $80,000 to repair the northwest corner of the Opera House. The city manager had asked if there's any way that we could dress up the walkway there, so that was another 20,000 in there, and then it is at 140 now. That's not a firm number, but what we felt that would be for soft costs, permit fees. Once we got the developer's agreement, there were some things in there that Paul had asked us to cover, so we felt that would help us with that. So the term, you had asked about the term, would be 2 years, 6 months for repayment on that. But so, and that's not, I don't think that's in here at all. This was a pre-development agreement anyway. So what I can do then is move forward on, there were some questions asked at the last commission meeting. So what we did is we put together a narrative on that. I don't know, do you want me to read from this, or just?
However you wanna do it,
Yeah.
if you just wanna give us the highlights on it.
Sure.
Because I think the part that we're talking on stabilization, you know, is the necessary part, but there are other phases in
Sure.
there that are germane to what I think Commissioner Lopez was asking, is what the timeline was going forward.
Yep.
So if you wanna do it that way, you know, anybody else that would be interested can hear it as well.
So the Joppa was purchased, in August 2019. We've been looking for years on the best practice use for that, the best redevelopment, mixed use projects, so it'd be residential, commercial, main floor. COVID put the brakes on a lot of it. We're at a point now where we've got a current plan for its residential, second and third floor. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, from Main Street, it's 2 stories. On the back side where the old fly loft is, there's actually a 3rd floor, and there's a cupola up there, which is, we call it the 4th floor. Anyway, and the main floor would be commercial. We are anticipating exposing the basement level. Right now, there's kind of a open well across the back of the building. We'd like to open that up a little wider. I call it an arroyo, but we'd like to open that up and put retail down there as well. So, so part of this, we're going to call this first phase that TURA is helping with. And part of that first phase is the stabilization of that northwest corner. So what we'd like to do is dry in the roof, reroute some of the water drainage on the roof, repair the scupper, which has been a problem, deterioration in that corner. The entire front of the building drains to that corner. So that would be part of it. We'd also shore up the inside. The floor is somewhat deteriorated in that corner, so we'd like to shore that up. We also would repair the wall, the masonry on that corner, as well as the sandstone panels. And then part of this project would be to dress up the walkway out front. Last year, we redid the walkway itself, surface, repainted it, replaced boards, etc. And now we're working on the roof and facade portion. And what that'll do is that'll buy us a few years till we get into the actual rehab. And you'll see later in this narrative, the rehabilitation of the facade of the building. So that was, we're gonna call that phase 1. There's 5 additional phases that we have outlined in this building. Phase 2 through 4 are pretty much one package. We'd like to work on that. Phase 5 and phase 6 are actual development of the spaces. Our goal is to stabilize the entire building, make it ADA compliant, try it in, and provide, you know, all the required exiting that are required for the building, stairway, new stairways, etc. So phase 2 would be, and the other thing we have to do here too is we have to remediate the building. So in order to remediate the building through EPA, we have to make it, you know, safe. We can't stabilize the entire building, we don't have the funding for it, but we're going to temporarily stabilize it so that the building can be remediated. At that same time, we would dry in the roof to protect the asset. So that's phase 2. Phase 3 is overall building stabilization, which is tuck pointing, stabilizing the sandstone panels, window replacement. And at that point, we would also provide ADA compliance. So we rebuild the stairs, put in an elevator core, and get the building up to what we would call a solid building. And so from that point, then we can build on it. We're able to market spaces, etc. Whether it's basement floor, first floor, second floor, third floor. Phase 4, as part of that, these first stabilization pieces of the puzzle, we would build out the basement floor, start from the ground up, and just get those spaces leasable. We do have some potential users for that space, And then phase 5 is the retail units. It's anticipated that we'd have a restaurant on the corner and a couple of retail units to the west. Phase 6 are the residential units for the second, third floor, and the fourth floor cupola. Those last two phases, we can reimagine those as we go through this process. We're not locked into, we have plans to divide that up into residential units right now. We're not married to that. Our goal right now is to stabilize the building. And it's such a prominent location on the corner. And I've said this before too, is that corner is so important. And any one of those 4 buildings there go on as a smile without a front tooth.
Yeah.
So, we finally have somebody that's willing to save the building. And it is a beast. It's not going to be an easy project, but we have a good plan for it. We know it's savable. And so we're at a point now where we'd like to move forward with that, stabilize the corner and then move on to stabilization of the building. So the narrative goes on, we talked about incrementally, that's true not only in phasing the work on the building, but also funding as well. We do have you'll see in your narrative, we do have a couple of potential users that would be on that lower floor, which would help our phase 4. As I said, phase 2 through 4 are kind of one package incrementally, but that's our goal right now. And you'll see I've given you a potential timeline in there. I think that was requested at the last meeting, and this is important. June of this year, this is preliminary too. This is June is really the initial part of phase 1. July, we get agreement from TURA's help. August, we could start work on this. And we put December in there to finish the work that you would help with. I think it's gonna happen a lot sooner than that. We have a contractor lined up for it right now. 2 through 4, phases 2 through 4, as I said, we've outlined that right now. That is our goal for the next few years. We're hoping to secure financing commitments by the end of this year. First and second quarter of next year, 25, we're looking to do permit drawings on these first few phases. As I said, right now we have schematic design drawings for these, so we have full marketing package for this building, renderings, drawings, etc. So first and second quarters of 25 would be permit drawings. We get it out to bid third quarter, fourth quarter work starts, and we finish the work of these first 4 phases by the first quarter of 27. So it's
As you explained, when we talked originally, when we met with Steve Rubert, when this first came to be, you had photos and they're pretty amazing of what the inside of that building still contains. Might want to, although we don't have it, might want to tell TURA about what those features on the inside that still exist, like that, in that one where that skylight area is, and like the old the fountain area of that drugstore and stuff.
I hear tell about that stuff. That's amazing. I hear.
Yeah.
So the building is unusual in its history. So it was, and you all know it was Houseman for forever on the corner, and there were other retail units going west, but it was originally designed as an opera house. So the main stair going up to the second floor is open at street level to the street. Halfway up, there was an airlock, and it opened up to a long corridor that ran east to west. And then in back of that was the theater. It made it 20-some years as a theater, and was redesigned into smaller units. So we are working with those smaller units. What they did leave though was as you come up the stair, and you've got this long corridor left and right, you walk into a two-story space with a skylight there. We are gonna keep that. It's a huge, beautiful piece of that building. The roof of that building is interesting in itself, and that part, to span that original, theater, there were 3 huge trusses, have a bowstring truss, if you're familiar with that. To span that, the back of the theater was a fly loft, so what they did is there's a stair back there at the end of this, open area, this 2-story area that goes up to that 3rd floor. And then what we noticed is, we saw an old ink sketch of the inside of this theater, and we noticed that there was a cupola in the center of the theater. Well, when they built out this into, housing, they basically sealed that off. But we found this little stair that goes up to that cupola. It's all still there. So that's our 4th floor, that we call. It's exciting to see the building evolve. It's exciting to see what's still there now. And we've played on all of that as far as our design. We've used all of that. We talk about the end use, so that the 2 westerly retail units on the main floor are just retail units. They've been modified over the years, and so we're gonna convert those back to white box. The interesting unit is the corner drugstore, where the beautiful, beautiful 1-by-1 tile floor. It's completely finished in wood, raised panel woodwork inside with some pewter capitals on the columns. On the right side, when you walk in, there was an old soda fountain there, and it's Craftsman, so it has, the fixtures were still there. So the intent of that space now, and we've got a rendering, I can give that to you guys to take a look at it, is a restaurant. And so keeping everything the same, Craftsman style, the bar is still there, fixtures are still there. There is a mezzanine that goes up around the back side that we would use as well. So it's really an incredible space. It's taken its beating over the years, but it's still there, very restorable. And that gets us excited about it.
Mr. Hawk.
A couple things. Carl Davidson sent me a photo on that building, and at the very end, there was a Howlett store back in the early 1900s. So it was kind of cool to track them back down. Not related, but I found that interesting. Troy, appreciate seeing you here. To me, there are a few buildings in Trinidad that, if addressed and improved upon, would make a bigger statement of what TURA can do than a building on that corner. It's almost why we exist in some regards. Not speaking to being the finance business, but it's one of the things we need to help advocate. I do see loans of this sort in the future becoming part of our toolkit, especially as we see decreasing TIF. We need to figure out other revenue streams and other ways where we can participate in addressing blight conditions. Did I say that right, Chair?
Lighting conditions.
Lighting conditions. And so I see us either partnering with folks or doing those things or facilitating these things and being some of that thing. So if the bond market ever comes back, I see us actually trying to do some things in that area as well. I've always seen this, and I see it in some of the letterhead, that I see this in my own head, whether it's true or not, that this is almost a city advocated request. Because some of the stuff comes on city letterhead, and Steve has made kind of a petition or at least something along that line, and I see us as a city. Unlike Commissioner Lopez that has constituents and people that vote for him, we've been assigned here. We've been placed here. We serve at the leisure and the pleasure of the city. Okay, and that's kind of our constituency is the city, and so it does affect me when the city comes in and says, you know what, we really need TURA. You'd help us with this project, and I kind of think it should do that. What have you seen? Because part of the thing along the way and in the loan agreement is that building can't be used as collateral for this. So has your team looked at anything with regards to the collateral component of this? Will that be being made, known here soon? Because the building itself won't be used as collateral for the 140. So what will be used as collateral for the 140 to make sure that we, have, that our risk is reduced? Any idea?
Could I step in on this?
Please.
First, the preliminary loan agreement is just basically to say that we've got some agreements and principles. Okay, we will, and once we get through this, will be, I'll let you guys ask your questions, and I'll get to it, but that's a point where, you know, there's more to go beyond this.
Okay.
But this is the original statement that says, this is what we would like to see happen. We will figure out what the term of the loan will be, what its interest rate it's gonna be, what the incremental payments are going to be, all that yet to be determined. And as far as the same thing, as far as collateralizing it, you know, the thought is that we're, you know, as you see it in here, the collateral, the desired collateral is not that particular location.
That's what I'm referring to in my question.
Right, yes, and so that's that's a TBD, I guess, for, you know, to be determined.
And again, so that's why, since you're here and you're a representative, I've asked, has the team considered that at all yet, knowing all the things that the chair has said? But I'm okay to set that aside. I just thought, because we're in that stage right now, ramping up. And if the answer is no, you haven't considered anything yet, that's an acceptable answer.
So we have, and we're in agreement with the fundamental outline that the preliminary agreement discusses. So I think we're agreement in all of that. And I think the only thing now is to come up with the details, you know, like you said, with the financing, the terms and that, so. Yes, absolutely.
And again, for me, and then I truly do understand that this is going to be a process, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in the weeds, where the devil lives, and I know we're gonna get there and through there. I do think that when we do these things, either now or in the future, if there's an opportunity that as your funding stack as you moves through allows the prepayment of anything we've done, so we may be able to take those dollars back in and put them back into use in other areas. I'd like that just be considered, and I've mentioned that in the past. And then, obviously, my last comment was, we need to see the final loan agreement and what those details are in that agreement. But I feel very comfortable in the parties, our attorney and our consultant, helping us get there. But I'm very supportive of this. Okay? Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman, and thanks, Paul. Thank you for this information. You know, I tend to be one of those guys, I've been in office 8 years now, I just gotta go into the weeds a lot. Especially when it comes to agreements and it comes to public funds that are being utilized for these types of things. So thank you for, Mr. Lamb before, having to do the same scrutiny that I brought forward through this. So I did have a wonderful conversation in Vail with the CCI at Colorado County's conference last month, and I got to visit with Maria Combria for quite lengthy, and your building was brought up on topic as well. We did ask Tara Marshall to leave the conversation since he is the direct assistant in the local region for that. So there was some concerns that the process that we're looking at here regarding TURA and possibly your organization, and then TURA Urban Renewal with DOLA, and how that's gonna work, and if you guys are gonna work with DOLA at all, if you're gonna get further funding, because DOLA, when I mentioned the Department of Local Affairs, how we were kind of looking at it, kind of like, it seems a little backwards. But I do think that we can, through our legal counsel, and what Commissioner Howard just said, be another tool and utilizing this way. But DOLA kind of saw like, I don't know, that might be, so I don't know if you're gonna go for that funding route or not, with the Department of Local Affairs for some fundings, USDA fundings, or whatever. So having said that, we asked the local representative, Tara Marshall, of DOLA, to leave the conversation in case you guys went that route as well. I don't know if that would, if we even qualify for any of that, but you would qualify for USDA, CHAPA monies. There's all kinds of different funding mechanisms out there that I'm sure Dana Crawford knows way more than I do. But my concerns are, the phases is great. The construction is, you know, is lined out here. My concern would be the same thing that I asked Mr. Lamb for the dealership, would be, a succession plan, which he was able to give that with, with Mr. Chimino set up and all of his trustees moving forward with those programs. The funding mechanism in place, for the entire project. I sure hate to see 140,000 or 100,000, whatever the price would, the dollar amount would be go, and then, oops, we don't have the funding, and now we're stuck with a building. Yeah, the payments are being made back, but we don't have a plan in place. So those are the things that I would really love to see, with the next step of this and how we get to this beginning phase 1 and 2, and then what the phases, the remainder phases look like for the funding mechanism. And then I would be, head over heels to move forward with this and make sure that, again, securing public funds, which tax increment funding comes from, is from local tax dollars, and assisting a developer, which is what we're here to do, but also making sure that the plan will come to fruition in its entirety. So, but thank you for this information today.
Very much.
Commissioner Heck?
Of all the projects that we've come across the year and a half that I've been here, this is the one that intrigues me the most, because where I come from back east, we did a project like this in one of the seaside communities, and the revitalization of the town that it was in was extraordinary. And looking at what we've done so far and going forward, like Pat, Mr. Howden, I think that this could be an interesting arm to the TURA mechanism for raising funds, and more importantly, the building has to get fixed one way or another because of safety. Every time I walk across there, and I look at that scaffolding and I think about it and I say, oh God, hopefully it never falls on somebody. That would be good. So it's got to get fixed. And, I trust in people like our attorney and Luis, who is a guy that crosses the T's and dots the I more than anybody I know. I trust that all the mechanisms will be in place to protect the integrity of TURA, which is, one of our main concern, aside from making sure that the money is spent well. But if everything comes to fruition and the negotiations are done and it's agreeable to everybody, I think this is going to be an incredible boon to what TURA does and to what this town is capable of doing. It amazes me. It's such a small town. There's so many things that are going on, and it brightens my heart to think that we might be able to bring this facility back, and in 3, 4, 5 years, go in there and get something to eat or buy something in a store or just walk through the building, which I like to do, by the way, in a lot of places. So I hope that what you're telling us. And what our attorney is telling us, we'll be able to meld. And if that's the case, I am 100% behind you. And the one thing I will ask you is, we are in the process of discussing before and after pictures. All right, we took some before pictures of the used lumber company. I want to take before pictures of your project. And then, of course, the after pictures will be tremendous.
Well, we have both for this project as well as Hughes. So we have them both. I talked to Mr. Lamb, and I think I don't know if he shared those with you or not yet. The after pictures of that.
They've given us.
Okay, good.
The renderings,
yeah. It's exciting, and we have full documentation before we have the renderings and everything for after. So, and then East Street School is a product of a real after. So I think that's really, we're hoping, they move forward on Hughes as well as, and I'm excited about this project too.
We are
It's huge.
Well, the nice thing about it is I get to hear everybody's thing before it comes to me, and I say yes to him, yes to him, yes to him. And I feel the same way. It's mainly commercial. It's not some off street. The McCormick building got fixed up. The Columbian looks nice. The First National Bank always is in tip-top shape. We wanna get this one in shape. So I'm all for that. And going back to Luis's, if we can cross the Ts, dot the Is a little bit, we'll all feel better, and you'll probably feel better. I'm 100%. This is what we're here for, is to help with these type of things for the city of Trinidad. And being part of it is a real great thing. I'm just really proud that we're able to be part of this. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thank you. I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to be a part of this as well. And it's just, to see these things come through, any redevelopment, I've been doing this for 30 years, and any redevelopment project is, how would you put it? It's almost a miracle to get it done. There's so many moving pieces.
Right.
When you come to finance, when you actually come to construction, contract, lawyers, and, funding, everything. So when they come together in this fruition, it's really a beautiful thing. And this is truly a candidate for that. We are working on all the different types of funding with TURA, CHAPA. You guys are a big player in this, and we talked about how you can be a catalyst as part of this project, being local, CHAPA, CDPH, everybody else is state, District Colorado, all of them. But for you to be a part of this, we're grateful as that as well.
Question for me, Paul, is so if TURA doesn't agree to and doesn't want to participate on the soft costs, which are next, the number between 100 and the 140, if TURA says, is in support and would like to go forward, but it wouldn't be inclusive of those soft costs, is that going to hinder? Is that going to do anything as far as, is 100,000 acceptable? Is Opera House, Trinidad Opera House LLC in a position to say, okay, we can still do it without you being a part of the soft costs in that loan agreement?
Yeah, to answer that question, I would have to go back to being in urban neighborhoods to find out, Trinidad LLC. I don't know that answer. But,
Okay, yeah, that would be a question, one of my questions is because, I remember the beginning point, the genesis of this all, when we had that first conversation. And then, we and it's all reasonable, it's not like it's unreasonable, but in the event that TURA said, our cap is at 100,000, gotta see if that's going to be any kind of a problem with it, because that could be the point. And in those soft costs, one of the things that would be, because one of the things that's been mentioned, and I think it's germane to it all, is TURA wants to recover any and all costs going forward. You're going to see in tonight's bills that we're needing to pay. We've already got money invested in it with our attorney. So going forward, we're gonna have more of that. And there, looking at it, there's some soft costs that, if we don't agree, if in the end, the agreement doesn't include the soft costs which exceed the $100,000, then we need to see how we're going to stipulate and recover our costs going into it. So that's one. So that's one to be thought of, one to be discussed.
And I think that's good, it's a good point. And I think that's what, when we saw the agreement, we chose to add the soft cost, an option would be to add them back into the note. That way, TURA, there's nothing out of pocket for you. It's covered, nothing out of pocket, the permit fees, everything, attorney's fees, all of that is covered. It's financed by the owner. We could set up a precedent for you moving forward with other projects in that all of those costs are covered. They're all, and TURA's, there's no out-of-pocket costs for you. And to answer your statement is that we put the 40 in there as a ballpark number. And so that way it's covered. If in fact it comes in at 120, that 20 could be used for prepayment and 20 back in, that's right back in the lump sum. So that would be one of the terms of the negotiation.
Yes.
The agreement is that there's no prepaid penalty if you put that back in. So I think that was just some of the thoughts that we still have to, I know you have to talk to Mr. Benedetti and go through, the final agreement. But I think those are all good points. And I think one of the conversations came up about 60 months. We felt that let's do it in 2 years, 6 months instead. Let's get it done right away and not wait that long. So I think that was and that's one of the things we could, all talk about when we get to the final agreement.
Right.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Paul.
Good to see you.
Gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, for our discussion, okay, we've got the presentation from Paul Glenn, we got it. There's some things that we need to talk about as TURA, because we need to see going forward. One, is TURA, in principle, we're not taking any official action. But in principle, are we looking to go forward with this? Because, we've got time into this already. So we need to go forward into that next phase. And so one of the things one is, do we have some kind of consensus here, that we have interest in taking it forward and go on beyond, get the preliminary loan agreement in place and then start working toward the next phase once we get this thing done. The other thing is to remind, although Paul provided us with what the phases are going forward, we've got that information. So that's all there is, somewhat as like a safety net, so we know that, hey, we're going to have some investment into a project that is going to take place. But our part that we're concerned with, it's wonderful to know what's going to happen beginning in 25 going to 2027. But what we're looking at is our providing loan funds for the stabilization of that corner and that facade. That will be based, that is the number thing, that's what it has to do with. Secondly, I lost my train of thought again. Secondly, we're looking for security, which is going to be not that particular location. So therefore, if for some reason or another, all those other things don't gel, we've got something else as security. So that's where TURA is looking to protect their position. Is okay, we're not looking, in case it doesn't happen that we, the worst thing that happens, we're getting paid, but and we get paid off, but the building doesn't happen. That could happen even if it's cross collateralized. So, going forward, I need to know, and if in this process that we have to do these other things, if someone else on this board wants to sit, it could be 2 people, in communication, and we can enter another stage of negotiation, which is obviously going to include Paul Benedetti. But it's one where I need to know what the takeaway is from this to go forward with this. So again, consensus is, do we need to carry this forward? This is not official action, but do we start doing this so we don't stymie it? And then there's one more part to this all, that there's a component that we need to come up with, is we are not, we've got funds in our account, but we are not lending institutions. So therefore, we have to have the services of an outside organization, i.e. a bank or whatever else, to originate the loan, administer it, and do all those things going forward, obviously for a fee. But those will be numbers that, we're going to actually, this is a loan that's going to include an interest rate on it, so we'll build our costs back out of that, and we're going to have costs, but we're going to have income from it as well. So that's the thing, that all this other part, we might get there, but we have one component missing that we got to plug that hole. And we need to find a lending institution, a cooperating institution that would do this for us, whether it's an institution or whatever service, but that's where it has to go. So that, this to go forward is still gonna require that. I can tell you that I made contact with two lenders in town, 2 local banks, and 2 of them said, oh, we'll do that. Okay, one of the ones said there's a possible way to do it, but it doesn't in that same direction. So that's just what everybody needs to know. I mean, this could become a reality and come to fruition, but these things have to come together methodically with one thing in the end. So, again, I can invite if somebody else wants to be, or we can do it all in a meeting here. We can do those things. do it all in a meeting, or do we wanna say, okay, two of us will be working on behalf of TURA to get a final product here for everybody to, approve? One of the constraints that we deal with is we only meet once a month. So, and so, there are time losses that create that, so to saying, okay, we're gonna do all this, but the negotiations happen here and do that, so once a month meetings could stymie this. And so, that's one thing that I need to take away, or some kind of opinions and advice from TURA, so I can know where, how this is gonna go forward.
So, really appreciate the summary that you just laid out there, because I think you hit almost all the major points. I do recall the chair when we, maybe within the last year or so, saying there's gonna be opportunities that come up that we're gonna have to break into small little action groups, okay, in order to get things done, so I think that's there. I would certainly volunteer, I have the time and some experience and acumen in that area, if that would help. I'm an affirmative on this, conditional on us getting to the right point, okay? To get there, we're expending some dollars. So there is that we are at risk, right? Right now, if we don't do anything, we're at risk, whatever we just spent with Paul Benedetti.
Yeah, it's
What
a
I'm
cost
saying-
of operation.
Exactly, but I'm agreeable to that level of risk, okay? So I'm an affirmative, I'm moving forward. I'm an affirmative, I'm trying to do it in a quicker than a meeting a month. I think time is always of the essence, not that you want to rush things. I don't think we have an urgency from a safety perspective, but our urgency has to be muted with regards to just getting a sound agreement in place.
Sure.
Oh, boy. Number one, the description of the broken tooth is the perfect analogy for this building and for our community. The community wants the building to be salvaged and saved and resurrected and be brought back up to its glory days, and we all know that. We all love that building. We all grew up here, and well, most of us, sorry, Mr. Heck, you weren't here, and Howard, but I was, and I'd love to see that. The but of the conversation for me is Chairman Grego made the comment that we're not a bank. We're not a lending institution, and I've said this before, to lend this kind of money, we invade in the private sector. And if we step on the toes of the private sector, are we now encroaching in that for the local banks to be an opportunity to be a lender to your organization, to the Trinidad Opera House LLC, or do we utilize it as a tool? So that's the fine line where I'm at in utilizing it as a tool, Paul, for you and your developer. If we are to be utilized as a tool, then I would need to see that the funding would be in place for the remainder of the entire project. I hate to see a building have a beautiful shell and exterior and nothing inside being utilized. I think the first floor of the Columbian is a perfect example of that. It's all being utilized on the lower level, but the interior and the rental house has never been come to fruition. So that's my perception or my objection to being a loan, unless everything was ready to move forward. And I think you guys are working on that right now. And if that can be put in place, then I'm all for it being a tool of this 100,000, or if we can do the soft funds as well. If not, then I'd have to be a no and pull back from it. Because again, we are a tool to assist in urban revitalization and rebuilding and rehabilitation for our developers, but not a bank or a lending mechanism for rehabilitation for the public safety, as Commissioner Heck said, of the community. We are not that agency. But so if we can get all those stars aligned, I'd be 100% behind it, and vice versa if not.
Heck.
Well, I can only agree with Commissioner Lopez that we need to line up all of our stars, and if that's done, I'm a firm yes. If not, I'm not a no, but I would like to see what could be done to make things work out. I don't have a problem with us being a lending institution. I don't. If the money's there, if we have our guarantees in place, if it's within our scope and our parameter, I don't have a problem. It would generate funds for us, but more importantly, what it would do for the community is what we're all about. I'm not exceptionally worried about taking food out of the mouth of our local lending institutions. I think if they want to get involved in doing it, they can always make a proposal to the entities, and probably make a better proposal than we can make because they have the apparatus in place. That's if they want to get involved in that. From my point of view, if we're protected, if we're doing good for the town, if we have the money, I'm go.
Mr. Bigler.
I just want to thank you for bringing those points out, because I think that was important for us as a board to be able to look at those, and that's the hard line thing. We didn't know some of those things, and I know I didn't, and so I appreciate that. I also understand everybody's, like I say, the tooth, the analogy, I'm that way, I'm thinking this may be commercial, but it's gotta be right. It's gotta be fair, and it's gonna be equitable, as best we can, but I'm like Commissioner Hecht, or Jeff as we know him, but I would like to see it done. I'd like to see this go forward. I'd like to see the stars align and we help be part of those stars. I'm a go for this. I really think it's important, but I don't think we want to be silly about stuff. We need to cross the T's, dot the I's, and I appreciate you bringing those to our attention.
Well, for everybody's that, just know, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen with everything that has to come together. The stars and the moon are all gonna line up. It's not like we're gonna say, oh, hell, we forgot to do this again. It's gonna happen all that to begin with. Okay, so there's gotta be an agreement in principle of what we're doing, and the object of the loan, the loan is there in order to save the building, am I right, Paul?
Yes.
That northwest corner requires something to be done ASAP. If that northwest corner of the building is not preserved, there may not be a way to do phase 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, there's a definite reason to have it done. So so that it's a matter of, yes, we'll do it, we will get the security we need for it, and the borrower will pay, if the borrower does not pay or there's a default, we will have a remedy to make sure that happens. And that would be, i.e. being a collateral on a separate policy. So, a separate piece of property. So that's where it's at. So it's being a matter of bringing that all together. And in the end, if we're going to, that money that we have right now, it's sitting in the bank, and it doesn't make us, there's no return on it. Okay, so if you lend it, the TURA is going to see an amount of money coming back in an interest rate. So although we don't, we have funds out there, our funds are somewhat invested because we're going to get some interest on it. So as it sits right now, we're not doing anything with it. That becomes one more positive step of how we can add some income to that to our coffers. So it's got to win it's got to win for the town, because there's a building there that everybody wants to see better. Everybody loves to criticize it, obviously, for its condition and the wildlife. So there's a lot of different things there. So it's one where, it has a bunch of wins to it. And I think that, with everything in place, I think we can come to the table with something that we are all agreeable on. It says, okay, as it progresses, TURA will be able to say, hey, community, this is where your money's at. This is how we're handling it. You have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add some, as far as us getting together, again, whether it be all of us, or if it's, I'm okay with that. Whatever we need to do to help this along, I think we're all pretty much, willing to do that.
Well,
Especially-
would you trust myself and Commissioner Howlett, who has volunteered? We will put our collective heads together, get with Paul, get to the part where we have to talk with the borrower, and sort out these things so that we can come with somewhat of a finished product for TURA to look at and say, yes, this is where we wanna go, and it goes to next steps.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna
go.
So that's where it's gonna be, and that's our, I'll get with you as early as
Anytime.
tomorrow if I can,
Yep.
so we can do it, I'll get a hold of Paul, tell him where we're at, the other Paul, that is. And, we'll start the next piece of ball.
It needs to.
All right, okay. Anything else? All right. Item number 3, Northland Securities, Northland Public Finance. We have with us tonight, Troy Bernberg, who was gracious enough to travel to Trinidad. Troy, we've seen you at several TURA gatherings in the past. Commissioner Lopez and yourself had conversations in the
Yes,
recent
at
past.
CCI.
with the
Nice to see you again,
CCI
Commissioner.
meeting. I hope you enjoyed the mountain air.
Yes,
Stuck in a hotel for 12 hours a day, we didn't get nowhere.
it was stuffy.
Yeah.
It was a stuffy hotel.
It was
as well.
hot.
I will let Troy give us all the details
Sure.
of what his company does and what they offer and
Sure.
what they can do.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners, for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. It's good to see those of you I already know and have spoken with. I think it's important to start with an introduction about who's in front of you. So I'm going to start there, talk a little bit about my career, but I'm getting to several points about kind of how I operate as an investment banker. So Troy Bernberg, Managing Director for Northland Securities, and I've been in public finance. I'm 3 weeks away from my 22nd anniversary of graduating CU Boulder and going straight into public finance. That's not something I'm recommending to my daughter. I had 5 days between the end of school and the start of my new job. So definitely not recommending that to my kids, but it's been a wonderful journey, and I've spent most of my time in my career serving communities this size and smaller. I've done $2 billion of financing, and that may sound like a lot, but a lot of my peers have done infinitely more. So what that $2 billion tells you over 2 years is that I work on smaller projects, I work on more challenging projects, particularly in the last several years. So most of my career, I've actually served cities, towns, counties, school districts, etc., special districts, water districts, etc. But in the last 10 years, I've really kind of started a more development practice where I'm helping communities figure out how to get development and figure out how to get it done, okay? And most of my work has been with DDAs and URAs in that regard. And in fact, I am a little unusual in that I volunteer a lot of my time. So I sit on a nonprofit member organization called Downtown Colorado Incorporated, and we provide technical assistance to communities like yours and all across the state. I sit on that board. I've been on that board for 3 years, and I've been volunteering with them since 2011. And that's where I crossed paths with a mutual friend of ours. Paul Benedetti is a dear friend of mine and a professional colleague that I respect a great deal. And so in the development finance world, you know, I'm able to kind of broaden my horizons. You know, bond financing, while I enjoy it, it can be kind of boring. It's been done the same way. The first municipal bond was issued for the Erie Canal in New York State, which is a fascinating project, by the way, the Erie Canal. And so bonds have really been sold the same way for a long, long time. And I wanted to kind of get my fingers and hands in other stuff. So in the development world, I really can act as an advisor, not just a banker, okay? So I'm helping with financial planning and management of funds. I'm doing transactional financings, development feasibility, and policy and governance. I've actually written policy documents for some of my URA and DDA clients. But all of this work, whether it's in the development world or the governmental world, I'm a taxpayer like you all. I take my fiduciary duty to taxpayer dollars very seriously, and I've grown to appreciate it working for local government. So for me, it's my favorite form of government, local government, and it's made me passionate, but very vigilant when it comes to taxpayer dollars. So I don't mess around, I'm conservative, and sometimes I'm the guy that says no to something, but it's no based on facts, information, and what makes the project work, and what ultimately protects my clients, okay, and their taxpayer dollars. And so my recent work for DDAs and URAs have really represented kind of two worlds. I've actually represented and been engaged by developers, where they bring me in to say, hey, Troy, we need bond financing, or we need your advisory services, okay? And I've actually had to tell developers, one over in Craig on the other side of the state for the Craig URA, the developer wanted to do a project, he hired me to put all the numbers together, and in 3 weeks' time, I had to tell him, your project doesn't work. It doesn't cash flow. So I don't like being the guy that says no. Investment bankers like to say yes instead of no, generally speaking, as a matter of practice. But for me, it's important to say no when the project doesn't work. I've never had a project go sideways or go into default in my 22-year career, and I really don't plan on doing that now. So again, technical analysis, revenue projections, stuff like that, looking at a project's revenue projections from the developer. So if I'm representing a URA or DDA, I can basically play pro forma or projection police to the developer's numbers. I've got a lot of the same statistics and data that the developers do, and sometimes it's always good to have a third party look at those numbers. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I've actually written policy for planning and management, and that's really a very large umbrella. So it's primarily focused around how is tax increment invested, how much is invested, when is it invested, and how do you kind of understand and evaluate your return on your investment, okay? So those are all things I put in policy. Now, I may be unpopular by saying this, but I'm very transparent. Policy is not law. So some people treat policy as law. For my DDA and URA clients in the work that you all do, for me, policy is good to keep you in your lane, know where you need to keep driving, but it's meant to also have exceptions to it. So for me, I want the policies to be flexible for my clients. And some of my clients, I force them to read their policies once every year to make sure there's nothing in that document that maybe was left out. I'm not perfect. One of my clients, we've had their policy in place for 3 years. We've had 3 annual amendments to it. So for me, it's meant to be a dynamic document because things change, circumstances change. And crafting operating guidelines, what to do with your cash when it's not doing anything for you, and ultimately how can you get the most out of your cash, whether you're in a savings account or whether you might consider it as a loan to another project or entity. Ultimately, what I'm here to do is serve as in your interests if we choose to work together in any capacity you need me to work in. Okay, like I've written a policy for one client, I am in developer negotiations with another client. So I'm helping my client negotiate on behalf of their URA for the benefit of their URA. So when I'm working for my URA and DDA clients, I represent their interests, okay? I am licensed under the MSRB and SEC, so I have to deal fairly under those rules, and I do so, and I take it very seriously. Transparency is something that I think helps make the world go around a lot easier. And for me, that's how good projects get done and good deals get done. One project that I think is pretty visible from my experience, that was a particularly difficult project to do, was the United States Olympic Museum project in Colorado Springs. That was a $140, $160 million project. Approximately $40 million of it was public financing. And so that's where I came in, and at the time I was actually working for a commercial bank. I was still in an investment banking role, but I was working for a commercial bank. And I got a real appreciation for how banks underwrite these types of loans, and I got to talk their language, because commercial bankers and investment bankers, we are a little bit different. Investment bankers say yes to a deal, and they figure out how to get it done. A commercial banker will likely say no, and then you kind of have to convince them and walk them to yes. And so that's been my experience there, but it was a great experience to work at a commercial bank because I figured out for the Olympic Museum project, I not only had to protect taxpayer dollars, but I also had to protect the bank's interests as well, because I'm lending out their money. And ultimately, it was a cash flow loan. There was no collateral. Under the nuance of the transaction, they were revenue bonds, but no collateral. Banks love collateral, okay? And so I had to devise a financing mechanism that protected the development, the project, protected the URA, in this case, the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority, as well as the city and the bank. So for me, that was a really great experience because, you know, someone like me has to balance some of those interests. Ultimately, my interests lie with the borrower, the URA, but ultimately, at the end, I had to protect a lot of interests. And sometimes to make a deal go around, that's the approach you want to take. But when it comes time to negotiating, you know, agreements, whether it be a loan agreement, whether it be a reimbursement agreement, okay, for me, you know, there are, and you've touched on a lot of the things that I like to touch on, so I'm really glad to hear how the conversation's going in regards to this Opera House loan. For me, you know, I think I look at those things and like milestones, performance milestones, okay? So each party has to perform their duties under the agreement. If one party doesn't, well, then there needs to be a remedy or some kind of action that occurs to get everything corrected. For me, some of my clients aren't all in the ability to loan money out. They're working on an agreement for a new project that's going to create increment dollars. So in those cases, it's a little easier to put in performance measures because if the developer doesn't build a project, they don't get their tax increment, okay? So you want each side to have a skin in the game. Sometimes one side might have more skin in the game, and that's sometimes how these agreements are put in place. I often will write policy about how you pay out your increment dollars. Do you pay increment dollars out in a blank check fashion? Or do you find ways to protect those dollars to make sure that those dollars go to the project they're said to be going to, right? And so for me, that's when a lot of my detailed approach really kicks in. And for me, ultimately, that's why people like Paul Benedetti are great, because for me, I believe almost anything you can put into an agreement of some kind, into some contract, whether it be a performance measure or a clause. If there's something hanging up, most of the time, in my experience, it can be documented and recorded. And so for me, ultimately, I fall back on the taxpayer dollars fiduciary duty. I'm a taxpayer just like everyone else, and I want to make sure those dollars are protected and used prudently. You know, some of my clients, in this particular case, a couple up on the Front Range, this Opera House project, it would check a lot of boxes for them. They would just want to understand what's their return on investment, and I think that's where Commissioner Lopez has talked about, you know, what's the long-term kind of vision, right, for this, and it's been laid out. But those are things that, you know, are important to you. It's a community asset. So for me, if we have the luxury of working together, what I can do is I can help basically look through an agreement, make sure it has all the provisions that are protecting you and protecting the dollars, okay? So that's what's important to me, is to make sure that those dollars go where they're supposed to and have the effect that they need to. Clearly there's public safety, so that's something that usually a lot of my URA and DDA clients can kind of hang their hat on, right? Public safety and safety issues is everyone's kind of issue and topic, and so, you know, for me, in some cases, I encourage my clients to step up to some of those opportunities. Sometimes I tell them that's not the right project for you to fund. So ultimately, that is your decision, but I take all my direction from my clients. I don't go rogue. Ultimately, I want to be a collaborator, a protector in some cases, and someone really easy to work with. For me, I spend a lot of time with my DDA and URA clients working on all kinds of things, cash management being one of them. I'm working on right now structuring a URA client of mine. They say, Troy, we've got this bucket of money, and what we want to do is just leverage it so we can build as many new homes in our URA boundaries as possible. That's a really tough task given this particular client, where they are, what the demographics are. But I'm taking it on because for me, this URA is attacking their housing problem in their community. And sometimes that's where URAs kind of have to step up amongst your fellow jurisdictions. There are sometimes gaps in funding. What I can ultimately do is help you evaluate any of these opportunities, whether it be an investment opportunity, whether it be a lending opportunity, and use my expertise to really say, all right, this is what you should be looking for. These are the provisions you want to consider, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I went to school for finance, so for me, developing an interest rate target for a loan or an investment product, that's kind of what I really specialize in, and I can help you kind of formulate a fair interest rate if that's something you want assistance with. I've talked now for about 10 minutes. I'm going to take a sip of water and allow the commissioners to collect your thoughts and ask me any questions you'd like. I'm sorry I didn't have a PowerPoint. I find they're distracting, and when it comes to what I do, they're really boring.
I don't like them.
Pictures and just font of me saying the same things I've just told you in the last 10 minutes. So
I'm gonna start on this.
There you go.
Oh, since you said you were last before.
Yeah, no, you don't get that opportunity.
All right, lead dog.
I don't know what to say. No, I'm intrigued about your services and just trying to, how can we plug you into as a helper? I mean,
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question, because I didn't cover that, Commissioner, so thank you. So ultimately, in these instances, for a lot of my URAs and DDAs clients, I'm on a contract that pays me by the hour, because a lot of my clients need me at different times. Some of my clients need me at every single board meeting, every single developer meeting, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, there is a not to exceed amount on those contracts. They can be terminated at any time. We like to be flexible that way. We at Northland do believe in trust and long-lasting relationships. So if I'm not doing my job, I want you to be able to let go of me very easily and quickly. Okay. And so for me, I mean, I'm almost a de facto finance director for some of my clients, where I'm making a recommendation to a board about how much money to put into Colo Trust, which is a statewide deposit investment pool. And the Colo Trust is something that you guys should keep in mind, because that is a place where you can get daily liquidity and very attractive yields right now. And so for me, that actually goes into part of the math about what you should get back on your loan, right? You want to look at where can you currently put your money in a savings account. It's pretty much traditional public finance theory. So if you can put your money in a bank for 4%, well, shouldn't you be getting more than 4% on the loan? Because you can just stick your money in the bank, right? So that's just kind of the public finance theory, is you want to get the most out of your money while being prudent with it. But for me, I just log my hours that I've worked, and then I invoice you. That's how I work up until that dollar amount, and then we part ways.
yeah, thank you.
Mr. Heck?
Is it a happy coincidence that you arrived just at the time when we were considering how we do the?
No, the coincidence was me running into Commissioner Lopez at the county conference in Vail last month.
It is an answer to one of our questions, if we can work something out. I'd be interested in getting some information, if we are gonna, partner in this, getting some information about client lists and, the ability to talk to people that you deal with, and
Sure.
and the company that you're with. What is your position there?
Sure, it's managing director, Commissioner. So that's just a fancy way of saying I've been doing this a really long time. I am the only banker in our Denver office, but I have 8 colleagues that work on the bond sales. So when we have a large bond issue to sell to the market, my colleagues on the trading floor help with that. But we're a company of about 200 people, 250 now. Half the bank is dedicated to what I do. So that was a great sign for me when I came on board in 2018, Commissioner, was I wanted to know that this bank was serious about public finance, and committing half of your firm's people capital was a really good sign. And, I'm sorry.
Is this a private company or is it public?
Great question. No, I've worked for public companies in my past. I was specifically looking for a private company, which Northland is. We were purchased by First National Bank of Omaha, which have a banking presence up north near Greeley, Fort Collins, that area. But they're also a private company. So we remain private, and now we have a big supporting brother in FNBO.
Commissioner Lopez.
Troy, thanks for coming. It was a good conversation we had up north. And,
Yes.
And the whole purpose of bringing somebody down here is to have this discussion for this board to understand there's different options for our local URA and another tool in the toolbox that we can utilize for the Dana Crawford investors of the world.
Yeah.
This particular building, it's unfortunate Paul left before you guys could meet.
Yeah.
And it might be another tool in the toolbox for them to use as well as an investment banker side
Yeah.
of things for Mrs. Crawford. We met and visited briefly and had the common thread of Mr. Chairman Drago here,
Yes.
who knew each other, so I believe that's when the
Yes.
contact you made with him and come down to
Yes.
do a presentation with us.
Yes, Commissioner Griego has seen me, and Commissioner Helen has seen me at DCI events, speaking in my volunteer role.
And Wednesday call-ins.
Yes, yes, we do a monthly call as well, yeah, that I volunteer my time on, help people give insight about borrowing rates, etc. Please continue.
In the 5 years that I've been, over 5 years serving on this board, I believe you're the first investment banker presentation that we've had here in our chambers. So, you know, usually the first worm in the fishing hole gets the bite. And hopefully that will be this issue here with some of your services down the road for our local investors, our local developers. There's so much going on with the county, with Cougar Canyon. Hopefully we'll start spurring that upon with city council again and possibly getting that seated. So there's those projects along with the other projects that we've discussed tonight, including the Kip Hampton project with the Toyota Ford dealership. So, but thanks for coming. I knew, you know, kind of what you did, but now that I have a better understanding of it, and this board has an opportunity to listen to your presentation and have some discussion and another tool in our toolbox. So thanks.
Sure, of course, happy to do it. My wheels are already turning. I'm never presumptuous in my line of work. It's dangerous to do that. But for me, whether or not we get to work together, I'll pass along some of my ideas to Chairman Griego, because for me, I think there's actually a way to leverage this loan in more than one way.
And one last
Sure.
thought for this board. When I go to these conferences, I see a lot of sales folks there that are trying to sell commissioners' projects and selling their businesses, and this guy's followed up with his sales pitch to me and is here in person. So that doesn't happen very often. So Troy, thank you for your follow-up. Thank you.
Of course.
We have the other Paul's contact information, okay? So
Yeah.
we can certainly make that connection.
Yes, Paul can vouch for me. Paul Benedetti, that is.
Yes, no, the developer that just left.
Oh, okay,
Paul
sure.
Yeah. We've all already benefited from Troy through the TIF 101s and the 102s and the Wednesday calls, and then all the information that Downtown Colorado makes available. I know from just my time, just third year and fourth year maybe here, that he works with and is respected by many of the URA members that we know, that we respect and work with. So I've personally been looking forward for the opportunity where our Urban Renewal Authority was in a position to maybe work with Troy. Does your firm do things like the chair had mentioned? We're not a financial institution. We need to partner with, or find somebody that does the servicing of a loan,
Right.
that makes sure those kinds of things. And so we have a hole in our brick wall.
Right.
There. Does your firm provide that sort of service?
Well, not directly, so let me explain, Commissioner. So, F&BO is a commercial bank and lender. Northland Securities is a broker-dealer, so we're not a direct lender. So, actually, for me, there are a couple ways to do this, because this is a little unique. For me, it would be more of finding a lending partner that can do all the things I would want it to do on your behalf.
And again, keep in mind, we're the lender in this.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so we're looking more for the infrastructure of the
Well-
administration of the loan rather than somebody financing it.
Well, right, but I think you can actually find better ways to protect your money
Okay.
if you actually.
But that's in your wheelhouse.
Oh, yes.
That need that we have, that we
Well,
want to
yes, what I
identify.
can do is come up with a solution for you all to consider.
Very good.
Okay? And so a lot of, I've only presented one loan that was fully baked that my client didn't approve.
Well, and one of my last thing is we've been asked by the city to take more of a lead role
Yeah.
when developers come to the city and
Yeah.
try and propose something, because in many cases, because of the city being blue skied, that they have to provide information like our developer was able to provide us with
Yes.
their financials.
That's very important.
Okay, not you, and it got right back to them.
Yeah.
Well, in other chambers, it's a matter of public record, and you don't have the opportunity for somebody to really look at things.
Right.
And move things through a little bit more from a confidential perspective and see, can you get the deal done, or should we be talking without it being public knowledge?
Right.
Does your firm assist with that sort of thing? Because we're gonna be looking at pro formas, we're gonna be looking at some of these kind of things. And so I don't know if Ayers and Associates does that. Is this in some of the, and I'll ask the chair, because we got a pretty good, we're getting a pretty good team of folks together. We've got Paul Benedetti, who we know and trust now.
The Godfather.
We've got, who's respected all over. We've got Ayers and Associates, who's really helped us, guide us through some other things. Chair, is this a missing thing for us?
I'll have to check to see what the scope of services are that we engage Ayers and Associates for. I don't think you cross paths.
Right.
Because I'm seeing a
don't-
bigger need,
Yes.
and I really appreciate Commissioner Lopez actually making that invitation, you coming and accepting that invitation and coming here. So
Sure.
thank you, Commissioner Lopez, and that's all I have.
So, yeah, just to directly, non-directly address your comments, for me, yes, I'm working in Englewood. Every time my client gets a developer proposal, she picks up the phone and says, we need to meet, you need to do your analysis. I do tax increment projections. I do kind of the police check on developer projections of tax increment. Tax increment, as you all know, is very dynamic. Initiatives and the legislature are messing with the assessment rates. So you want to make sure all the numbers line up in foot with current law, and sometimes developer proposals don't always have that, or maybe they make assumptions that I don't like. I start conservative and generally stay conservative. I've spent most of my career, again, in rural parts in Western Slope, where the communities and the cultures are a lot more conservative. That's always who I've been. So for me, as long as you guys are comfortable me asking tough questions, yeah, that's my job. And I enjoy it when I know that I'm doing right by my clients, right? So sometimes I do have to ask those tough questions.
That's all, Chair.
Yes. Well, we do appreciate you coming down.
I love coming down.
And
I love Trinidad.
we, driver education.
You have a student driver.
I
It's
might
also
actually
great.
be able to close my eyes for 2 minutes on the way home. Well, really thank you very much, commissioners. I know you guys have busy agendas and all that. Really appreciate the time and speaking with all of you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
All right.
That was
Have a
great
night.
timing, great timing.
Right.
Hope you enjoy Trinidad.
Of course, my daughter got to hang out downtown and check out Trinidad. I told her all the spots to check out. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
Okay, well, that was very informative and, you know, we met Troy in the past and, you know, it's nice to get that even more on it. So I will, check more into it, be more in contact with him and, see where we go. Sound good?
Thank you.
Item number 5, public information regarding TURA projects. Commissioner Hecht, we touched on it, you asked that would be an item for future discussion. Thanks, Roy. Safe travels.
Thank you, Drew.
Did we miss one?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, let's go back. Item number 4, facade improvement incentive application. Keely Williams and the Well Hotel and Tap Room. We did have an initial review of her application last month, and there were some items that needed to be further discussed and some possibilities because there was costs in there that may not be applicable within our guidelines and those kinds of things. So we were supposed to get together, but Keely does work out of town, and you know, that wasn't possible. And her I guess her available time would have been to be able to talk about it today, but with the agenda already set, we were sort of behind the 8 ball. So we'll try to get that done, whatever it is, and possibly she can be here for next month. But yeah, it's a matter of timing, and it didn't come together. So you know, going forward, that may be the you know, something else to look at. Okay, number 5, Commissioner Hecht. You asked last month that you suggested that we should have something out there to get public information like the photos and stuff that.
I'm, you know, still of the opinion that we need to toot our horn a little bit better, especially in light of some of the recent developments. We are becoming much more prominent, I think. The thing that's interested me is in conversation, because I like to talk to people. I go through town and I talk to people, I say, yeah, I'm on TURA board. What's that? Okay, this is what we're doing. These are things that are in the offing. These are possibilities for the town. I just think that we need to be more visible. Commissioner Hallett and I have talked about this. Commissioner Dagley and I were working on the Hughes project with this, and you know, my small part was just taking pictures and then we distributed them. So now we have a basis, so that if we can build a portfolio of sort of a resume of what we do, there might be occasions when we can show off, show people what we do, show them what their tax dollars are going for. And that was my whole thing, and yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. Well, you're in the picture taking process, right?
Well, I need a list of places to take pictures, yes. If the board is in agreement that I should do this, I'm happy to, especially during summer when I'm not teaching, I'm happy to go around and take pictures of projects that we've completed. And then as we get more projects, you know, the before pictures, and then of course the after pictures afterwards. Because if we do this Opera House thing, that would be tremendous, especially with the shape that it's in now.
5 years down the line, that would be a hell of a picture. Right? Okay, is that it? Thank you. Item number 6, I think Commissioner Bagley, we would address that.
We did it, on number 1, we
All right.
combined those. Thank
Take
you.
that. Item number 7, the DOLA Planning Capacity Grant. We've discussed that in the past, and City Planner Nick Mason indicated that grant application was submitted to the DOLA, and they acknowledged the receipt of it the last of May. So it's just a matter of waiting to see where that goes, and if it's successful and it all comes together, we'll be working in tandem, and actually we have to contribute money, contribute funds, but we'll be looking, and there will be some staffing available for the city, which in turn will allow us to have some assistance from city staff.
Well, and you and I were on, I think it was on a meeting here recently, and it was well received.
Right.
It seemed like we were hitting a lot of the things that they were thinking, this is what it's supposed to do. So I think our application and our timing and some of the other things I have it puts us in a really great, I got that impression that from everybody that was in there.
She did say, she said, you know, everything that you're looking to do is within what you need to be asking for a grant for.
Exactly.
Tara Marshall,
No, it was.
No.
her assistant.
No, it was the number one gal.
Yeah, it was somebody else.
Maria Conrad? She's the director.
Yeah,
Oh,
of this
yeah.
program, maybe
Yeah.
in between the two, kind of thing, but they were very, there was a lot of positive feedback there.
So, looking at that with optimism that it's gonna happen, and that could be very helpful to us. Item number 8, board vacancies, and that sits out there, and possibly these photos that get out there could, spark interest for people that wanna be volunteers.
wanna sit with us?
Finding volunteers, that, all boards and commissions are, they're not a whole lot, are there?
It's a
Are they
challenge.
starting to fill up?
We just had work session on Monday and we had 5 applicants and there's so many vacancies and I announced like crazy
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
and nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's out there, but you don't get volunteers, but you do get scrutiny. Unfortunately, you don't get volunteers, but you do get criticism when you don't have everything in line. But we do that. Item number 9, items for future discussions. And one of the things, I just thought about that today, because the city has discontinued Zoom meetings, right? City
yes.
council does no longer do
Correct.
Zoom meetings.
They may do them on an as-needed
Yes.
basis, but as far as I understand, no more Zoom
Okay.
meetings.
So that's something I would like to bring up at the next meeting, because obviously it's not an agenda item. But, do we need to utilize it only like when we know we need to speak like with Paul Benedetti or somebody else? Do we need to do it? But wide open, if you see what our attendance has been over time live, because you can go watch it after the fact on Tom's, on Trinidad
Yeah.
Times. So you can watch it after the fact. So, not everybody has to be there, so that might be one thing that, as needed basis, if we know we have to have a conference with our attorney, maybe that, and we don't have to be setting up the online attendance, because it hasn't been utilized.
So please put that on there, and I'll bring the information I've got from the county attorney in that perspective.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it'll be on for discussion next month, but something I wanted to bring up, because COVID was necessitated that, but as time has gone on, it's utilized, but sometimes it's more for convenience, in other directions, so, something to think about. If that's, and nothing else on that, anybody have anything you would like to have on future meeting
I think
discussion?
we've got some stuff in the queue right now, we just gotta munch on a few things. Yeah.
Okay, all right then, we will move from our work session agenda, and we can probably move very quickly now, getting into our regular meeting. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is June the 13th, 2024. It is 7:12 p.m. Item number 1 is roll call.
Bagley?
Here.
Hecht?
Here.
Hallett?
Here.
Lopez?
Here.
Grego?
Here. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of the May 2024 meeting. Everyone was provided with an advance copy of those minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll make a motion to second that.
Commissioner Hecht with a motion to approve, with Commissioner Bagley on a second. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call.
Bagley?
Yes.
Hecht?
Yes.
Hallett?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 3, acceptance of the financial report. Again, advanced information was provided on that. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
And I'll second it also.
Commissioner Hallett with a motion, Commissioner Bagley with the second. Questions or comments? I would just like to mention that our revenue coming from the prior month, as of the end of May, we picked up another $23,443. Our revenue on TIF to date is $41,590.
Much better than we thought.
Yes, it is, and just to mention, because I know there's more to come, but at where we sit right now, probably comes really close to what our highest year so far has ever brought us in on TIF.
Chair or Commissioner Lopez in your other duty. Why?
So property values are reevaluated every 2 years, the assessed evaluations are done every 2 years. That's why the special session was put in place for the tax relief from the governor put in after the failed ballot measures last November. So the inflation has gone up on the property value, so when that goes up, everything goes up.
Okay.
But keep in mind, what goes up must come down. So this is a high ride right now, and what the governor has asked for that legislation is for counties to give property tax relief. Los Angeles County, we're the lowest in the state, 9.375, and the city is not that much greater. We don't see any wiggle room to do that, plus it would hurt all of our special tax districts, including the TIF. We're probably not going to even address it at this point in time through our assessor's office, or even think of that, but that is exactly.
Around the state, we're already considering providing tax relief.
Right, so, up in the bigger counties where they have multiple millions and millions of dollars revenue coming in, they can afford to do that.
Right.
In a rural setting, we really don't have that, capacity to do that, because they want to cut services. And we don't want to cut services from fire districts, school districts, and all those other districts.
Okay.
But your assessed evaluation is what's caused us to grow.
And we're gonna ride that wave while we can.
Yeah. It's good to be us.
Any more questions, comments?
No, sir.
Roll call?
Bagley?
Yes.
Hecht?
Yes,
Hallett?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Jacob?
Yes. Item number 4, consideration of bills, and we have one this month, which is to Attorney Paul Benedetti for legal services provided in May 2024. That amount is $900. Motion?
Motion to approve the bill from Paul Benedetti for legal services in May 2024 on the amount of $900.
Second motion.
Commissioner second with Lopez. Commissioner Lopez with the second.
No, I am Lopez the second.
Yeah, that's right. Any questions or comments? You can see where my night's going. Roll call.
Bagley?
Yes.
Hecht?
yes,
Hallett?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Griego?
Yes. Item number 5, petitions or communications, oral or written. Is there anyone within the sitting audience or anybody on go-to meetings that would like to address Urban Renewal Authority, Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority?
I would.
All right, please state your name and state what you're going to address us on.
Sure. Hello, my name is Lauren Hoffman. Thank you. I've been chatting with Pat Howlett. I'm a citizen here in Trinidad and have been quietly renovating a building on 323 North Commercial Street. I'll pass around a little flyer just so you can familiarize yourself. It was the old rehab building, so I'm sure you've seen it, but
Next to Los Angeles Grill.
yeah, sometimes
Oh, okay.
so I'm sure when I say that everyone knows, but addresses are hard to keep track of. So in speaking with Pat about an opportunity for a facade grant, as you can see on the building and when you drive by it, there's that very, long brick exterior with no lighting at all. So from what I understand with the building, the original construction was 1968, so some of you might already be familiar. I've talked with a lot of folks in town around the historical use of the building and things of that nature. I've done some due diligence with the History Colorado and other state agencies around supported funding opportunities. But essentially, I've just self-funded this as a regular person. I don't have deep pockets. I'm not a long-term professional developer. But I do love Trinidad. I think this building has a lot of potential to be a really wonderful community space for everybody to enjoy in the community. And so my hope was to complete the interior renovations hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I'm finishing the floors, finishing the ceiling, and the roof as well. So for me, it's been a heavy lift financially. So what I would be interested in was first just to come before you and introduce myself, but understanding the possibilities maybe for mutual support with the TURA group, maybe to consider if it's within guidelines, some pedestrian door on the part facing Commercial Street. And there's also a potential for pedestrian entrance on the backside of the building that faces the Cedar Street Community Garden. I've continued to invest in the potentially xeriscaping the parking lot as well to improve that aesthetics, maybe introduce some outdoor seating for community members. So admittedly, I've never been in front of this group before. I don't know what other context you might need from me, but the gist I think I made was I've kind of gotten us as far as I can. I think there's a few other improvements I'd like to make on the exterior, and if there's any possibility for mutual support, I would love to know what is in the realm of possibility.
Okay. In petitions or communications, we do listen, but we cannot provide you any responses.
Oh, yes,
So,
okay.
you know, again, you brought that, if it into the future, you wanted to get on the agenda, you could contact me, we could do that. Or
Okay.
you can contact me, I can tell you other things. So that's the extent that we can go with that. I appreciate your presentation,
Oh,
you know,
sure.
and glad to know that you're my neighbor across the street.
Yes.
But we can't go into any discussion on it because it is not an agenda item.
Sure,
So
no
therefore we
problem.
can't. So you can contact me, and then if we need, we can get you on the agenda, or we can discuss what the program is.
Okay.
And Chair, and this would be not a comment to the presenter, but to yourself. This kind of goes in with our desire months and months ago of trying to make sure we were available to anybody in our service area, that it had something to be able to invite them in. So that was the invitation to come on in. And then the process now can be laid out to you to move forward.
Sure.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah, we want the attendance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I came to this meeting. I've been interested. Sometimes scheduling it was difficult, but
Would you like to be on the board?
I am on the historic. I'm a chronic overcommitter, and I am trying to slow down. But I am on the historic Main Street board and been involved with that and other just grassroots community efforts too. So
So, and Chair,
I'd love to think about it though. I don't know if you have any.
just to,
We have two
I think it's good for folks to actually be able to come and say, and so irrespective of being able to have an applicant, ever as an applicant, I think it was just a good idea to see the work.
Yeah, we're okay with it, like I said, but, you know, it is, there's definition to it, when we have a published agenda, you
Yep.
can't
It's
introduce
not a problem.
anything.
I think that the purpose for me was fulfilled of introducing myself. I'm really honored to sit in on the meeting. It was very interesting to hear and hopeful. I'm also hopeful about the Opera House. So
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address or speak to the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? If not, we will move on. Item number 6 is old business, and we have none of record. Item number 7 is new business. Item A, Kip Hamden LLP, request for extension on the related to the disposition development agreement for the commencement of construction. The amendment is contract amendment number 1. Everybody was provided with that information at least once in the past, if not several times, so everybody has that. Is there a motion?
Is this a motion to accept?
This is a motion to grant the contract amendment.
I would like to make a motion to accept the request for extension, disposition of development agreement, commencement of construction, contract amendment number 1 with Kip Hampton LLLP.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Howlett with the motion to approve. Commissioner Heck with a second. Are there any further questions? Any further comments? Roll call.
Bagley,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Howlett,
Yes?
Lopez,
Yes.
Griego.
Yes. Item number 7B, authorization for Chairman Griego to sign the contract amendment number 1 on behalf of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Is there any motion?
I'll make a motion to accept that, and allow that.
Second.
Commissioner Bailey with the motion, Commissioner Lopez with the second. Any questions or comments? I would just like to say that in doing that, I put that on there, but basically within our bylaws and the authority allowed to chairman under the state statute, that would be done anyway, but I do that to make sure there's clarity for all of us and for the public going forward, that's authorization. But within our bylaws, it actually states that, within the state statute, it actually gives the chairman the authority to sign documents on behalf of the urban renewal.
I think it's smart that you do it, and I appreciate you doing
He's
it.
crossing 2
I think
T's
it's
and
smart.
5 I's.
Yeah. Roll call?
Well done.
Bagley,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Howlett,
Yes?
Lopez,
Yes.
Griego.
Yes. Item number 8, report by executive director. Obviously, we have none. I, as the chairman, transact business. And the only thing I would like to say, I extend my thanks to Des for helping us as she does.
Yes, thank you so much.
She finds my errors as I send her the drafts for the agenda, so it worked out very well, so thank you. Item number 9, reports by commissioners. Commissioner Howlett,
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Lopez.
Just a urban renewal, affirmative pastoral update, the executive board and then the transfer to the regular board decided to not move forward with a ballot measure for funding mechanisms in 2024. They will start our, looking at that and getting all the parameters in that place for 2026.
Thank you. Commissioner Heck,
Nothing.
Commissioner Bagley.
I think I'm good.
Item number 9, item number 10, adjournments.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Motion to
It's my
adjourn by
favorite
Commissioner Howlett with, who did the second?
I second it. Yep.
I thought Desi seconded.
I
If there are no dissenting votes, we are adjourned at 7:25 PM.